that has talked of freedom despite the Nazis. And radio has this incredible history, right? Right through World War II, people across occupied Europe are risking death to listen to the BBC. The war ends. Soviet Russia has enslaved half of Europe. And people are tuning in to the BBC because that's the only place they could get the truth. And I remember 1956 for two reasons. Ronnie Delaney won the 1500 metres in Melbourne at a time of 3:41.2, and the Russians invaded Hungary. And I can remember the Hungarians pleading with the West over their radio to come in and help them, as they literally, with bare hands, fought Soviet tanks. So radio has an extraordinary escutcheon. It is a very proud escutcheon and a very proud history. So therefore I am concerned with radio and its illegitimate child television and newspapers, because they're all the media, are failing in their responsibility. I worry. So, obviously, it's well documented my inability to control my tongue on radio, and the Twitter goes mad, right? And then a senior radio producer in RTE posts a tweet, and he quotes from an event that happened 55 years ago. But it's in my book, to be fair. And in the book I talked about this 22-year-old Catholic virgin, me, who for the first time in his life met a woman who drank gin and tonic and wore black eyeshadow. And the story was about, having a few gin and tonics with this lady in the hope of, breaking my duck. And then the story ends that I left her apartment as I had entered, a strong Catholic virgin. I thought it was quite funny, right? But if you post a tweet in which you leave out the timeline and you leave out the context, it's actually quite different. And when it comes from a producer in RTE, it's got a lot of validity. So within hours, a member of Dáil Éireann, Deputy Ruth Coppinger, is on the Sean O'Rourke show. Hook, she says, has form. He plies women with drink to have his way with them. Within days, it's in the national press. Within another couple of days, it's in the Guardian, for God's sake. All right? Hook has gone global. Right? So nobody has checked this story. Sean O'Rourke didn't say to Deputy Commissioner, where'd you get that from? Newspaper didn't say, where'd you get that from? Nobody. Just accept it. It's true. So then, the whole furore dies down, so Christmas looks like being okay, right? And then Ingrid, the lovely Ingrid, who I didn't tell her was here today, so anyway, the lovely Ingrid, I come down for breakfast and she says, "You're in the paper again." Oh, shit, And there's an article about Hook, right? Well, no, not about Hook. It's an article. And there's a picture of a despoiler of women, Harvey Weinstein. Hashtag Me Too. Then there's a picture of a despoiler of young boys, Kevin Spacey. Hashtag Me Too. And there's a picture sandwiched between the two of them of George Hook. Hashtag Me Too, right? Now, if it wasn't so hurtful to my family and to anybody else, and that me, I have to say, I think, it'd be funny. And it's funny now when I think about it. And I remember listening to Kevin Morris, and one of the great tragedies about this whole issue of free speech is that we have lost two of the finest journalists of our generation. John Waters and Kevin Ryan. There's also a big issue here, which I have to tell you. I prefer if you didn't clap, okay? Because being an extraordinary egotist, I'm likely to go on forever. Right? In fact, when I go into the bathroom in the morning and I turn on the light, I do 20 minutes to the shower curtain. So be careful for what you ask. But anyway, because of the issue of free speech. Right? But the first thing, Morris in a thing said that there were all these stories about him which weren't true. They were all not true. Simply that. I'm listening, and at this point, my crisis hasn't come, and come on, Kevin, And then, of course, I discover, that's right. All the stuff isn't true that they write about. And I'll give you another movie, and it's called All the President's Men. And it's the story of Woodward and Bernstein and the Watergate issue. And they're played by Robert Redford and Dustin Hoffman. And a huge amount of the movie is actually in the newsroom of the Washington Post. And Woodward and Bernstein, Redford and Hoffman are going to get stories. They come rushing back, we got a great story here about whoever, right? And then Ben Bradley, who's the managing editor, they're having their morning news meeting. And Bradley says, have we verification? Have we another confirmation of this story? And I said, no, but it's definitely true. Definitely true. Sorry, go and get confirmation. And then you have this of the two boys, and there's a moment in it where Hoffman's talking to a guy, and the guy confirms it, and he bounces the phone and says, we got the confirmation. Does that exist today? I hesitate to suggest to you it doesn't. There's another movie, Clark Gable and Doris Day, black and white, called Teacher's Pet. And Gable is the editor, an old-fashioned, crusty editor of a newspaper. He thinks the only way you can be a newspaper man is by starting at 14 as a copy boy and working your way up. And Doris Day believes in education as a journalist, but they fall in love with it beside the point. But anyway, there's a young fella in the thing that Gable gives a hard time to, who's a copy boy, and his mum wants him to go to university. But eventually, because Gable loves Doris Day, and who wouldn't love Doris Day, he sends a kid off to university. Now, what has happened today in radio and television and newspaper is all the young people who join that have a minimum of 2 degrees, some of them 3. There's no such thing as somebody coming in at the bottom and learning. Is that wrong? No. Is it wrong that people do 3rd level education? Absolutely not. But what is being lost is all the fundamental principles that were part of media since time began. So, do they print stuff that's not true? Well, I have to, on some of the points here, I can only refer to my own experience, because I don't know if a story about Joe McDokes is true or not. I don't know. I can only tell about myself. So, the Daily Mail goes bananas with a front page story. It's 35 years old, pretty recent by Daily Mail standards. And it's Hook evicts travellers with savage display of force. Right? They are relying on the reflections of a 13-year-old boy. He's now not 13 anymore, obviously, he was 35 years later, but he was 13 when it happened. Do they check it? No. Do they confirm it? No. Do they verify it? No. A simple phone call to Dunleary Corporation would have said, Hook had nothing to do with it. It just happened to be behind his house. Dunleary Corporation and the Garda Síochána removed the people because they were in breach of the planning regulation. But does that matter anymore? No, it doesn't matter anymore. Now you may well say, well, that's fine, George. And the newspaper will say, that's fine if you can. Why don't you sue them for libel? Do you have any idea, first of all, how much it costs? Secondly, or as my solicitor said, all you're going to do is you're going to restart this thing all over again. All the pain for everybody in the family, you're going to do it all.